Hey guys, how are you both doing tonight?
Not bad. How are you, sir?
Doing well. With Ryan and I tonight, this is Riley Mullins. I forgot to ask how to pronounce your last name. Hopefully that's correct
Yep,
though.
there it is.
Okay, Riley Mullins. And Riley is starting a Kickstarter next week as we record this, the 30th. Correct, right?
Yep.
The 30th for Victory Pints, which is in our region of the woods, although a little bit north of Ryan and I. Mason area will be a board game bar and restaurant, hoping to do some cool things. He's a passionate board gamer, husband, and father of two boys, 1 and 4 years old. I remember those years. That's a less sleep years. And he's also the founder of Mullenspiel, a new board game convention that was set to launch last year, but after opening up registration, COVID hit. So we can talk about that and
Yeah.
many events and was postponed indefinitely. So tell us about your convention. How many people you had registered for that, and how that kind of came about first. Let's start there.
Yeah. Great question. Thanks. So Mullenspiel, I mean, kind of silly because obviously that's my last name. It was kind of birthed out of some friends in Oxford, Ohio, that had been basically having little informal board game weekends for their birthdays for a couple of years, and so I kind of jumped on board with that. I was like, "Sweet, I'll do that too." So I did it for a couple of years, but there's had cool names, this con and that con, and Mullins Con doesn't really sound uh, it doesn't sound smooth. So somebody's like, "How about I just call it Mullenspiel?" I was like, "Okay." So we did that informal for a couple of years, and then this past year, or I guess at the end of 2018, uh, 2019, which would have been going into 2020 Mullenspiel because it's always in May over my birthday weekend, which is May 5th. But the November prior to that, I thought, what if we kind of made this a little bit more official? What if we kind of, you know, got some prize support, reached out for sponsors, all that. And so we did and got in, dozens of different gift cards and games and prizes and whatnot. And so we probably had a couple grand worth of prizes to give away. And I was like, okay, well, let's just, make this an LLC, make it a business. We don't really have to put anything in. There's not much of a risk for doing this, maybe $100, but there wasn't a lot at stake. So we said, let's just make this a business. Let's see if we can formalize this and actually, start a public event, not just a kind of private in-home thing. And so we were on our way to doing that, had, a venue set up and, chairs and tables about to be rented and, people signing up for registration. We didn't have that many people sign up for registration because it was, early. It was like right at the beginning of March. And so the event was a couple months away and, 2 weeks
Okay.
later, COVID hit, but we had a handful of people that had signed up and of course we had to refund them all, but
What venue were you looking at?
Like so it's actually going to be, I don't know what it is now. I think it's since moved on. It was actually going to be in an old church that was going to let us rent out their gym.
Okay.
So anyway, obviously that all got put on hold indefinitely, like most people's conventions. Though obviously, we're a nobody, and so we didn't have to make that call months and months in advance like some of the big guys. So we just kind of played it month to month and said, we'll check in next month, see what's going on. Obviously, none of that panned out, but I'm really thankful that ultimately, it kind of was, it obviously was delayed because it was that delay that really became the catalyst and evolved the convention initiative into the full blown, brick and mortar venue vision for Victory Pints. So that's what happened with Mullenspiel. I guess if Victory Pints for some reason didn't work out, maybe we'd pivot back to doing Mullenspiel, but the goal would be that Victory Pints comes out of the gate strong and just kind of absorbs Mullenspiel. We'll still do a series of events, but I don't know if we'll keep the hokey name Mullenspiel or not, but we'll see.
I respect somebody who knows that starting their own business is just as easy as filling out for a form. I'm self-employed and everybody's impressed that I have my own business. It's just construction. And I'm like, yeah, man, it's $45.
Yeah.
I understand LLCs are a little bit more expensive and require a lot more paperwork. So when you said
it was
that,
less than I thought.
Yeah.
They're not that much. Technically, this is part of an LLC too. So,
yeah. I mean, it's like $150 for an LLC. That's like 3 times an EIN. What's the electronic ID number? What's the tax ID number?
Oh,
It's
the
just
FEIN.
yeah, I can't
Yeah.
remember. I
Yeah.
just,
A federal employee employer ID.
So with
Yeah.
that, where are you in preparing for opening? Do you have investors? Are these people that were going to be part of the convention helping to back you? Why are you doing a Kickstarter? That's kind of a non-traditional way to get funding. Are you doing that as supplemental funding? There's a lot there. What do you want to unpack?
Sure. Yeah. The hope was that crowdfunding initiatives would be supplemental once we had secured the full financing needed, which we're looking at about 180,000 to get started with everything.
Yeah.
Obviously with COVID, lots of traditional lenders like banks and whatnot are basically, have frozen all lending for startups. That's kind of starting to turn around now. But, this whole plan kind of evolving and pivoting over really the past year, the past 6 months, especially, we've been looking significantly into the financing situation. And so we were actually able to bring on a small team of investors, 6 or 7 people, and some of our own equity from me and my wife that got us up to about 30,000 of the 180,000. So, and as we started pursuing different small business association, SBA partnership loans and other organizations and other bank entities and whatnot, we're in process with a couple of those now, but because the timing is obviously taking longer than it would normally, we decided, hey, what do we have to lose by going ahead and launching the crowdfunding initiatives now? And so we're actually running a GoFundMe and a Kickstarter parallel to each other, essentially because obviously the board game community is huge on Kickstarter. I mean, this is a very localized thing, but we hope that, people from all over can get excited about this and, setting the tone for venues in future cities, even theirs. But most of the circles I've run in the past 10 years would be very familiar with GoFundMe, and we've done a lot of work with GoFundMe. And so that's more of I have a lot of personal contacts in that realm. So we're kind of running both side by side to bring in as much as we can.
Cool. Yeah. How would you say, I mean, there's a lot of risk there, right? Both on the restaurant side and on the retail side. So how would you say you're going to be pulling in people? What's going to make somebody draw them in consistently besides the novelty of it? Because if you just have the novelty, right, that's going to wear off.
Right.
What's going to bring people back to Victory Pints consistently and help build that up for you, do you think?
The hope is that, even though, of course, it sounds ambitious, is that we would be kind of a one-stop shop where we can bring, most, if not all, of the world of board games together into a single establishment. Whereas now it seems like there's places that, are essentially a restaurant bar, and they kind of have board games as a theme. But they're a full-blown restaurant, full service, all that stuff. Or there's kind of your just retail store for board games. They don't necessarily have a lot of other amenities or food and drink. And there are some that are in between, but it seems like a lot of them might fall either to one side or the other. And so, there might be a reason for that. And so it's like, how can we bring all, meld those both together and somehow make a perfect world out of it? I don't know. But the hope would be that we can be competitive in our retail pricing because we're not solely a retail store that's relying on just those sales to keep us afloat. Really, it's the food, the craft beer, all that stuff that's going to be of course a big support to the revenue. And then we won't be a full-blown restaurant, so we're probably not going to have grills and vents and things like that, but of course we'll have the beer, the wine, the other food and drink. Of course, we'll have some appetizers, kind of turbo toaster style, probably have some cold wraps and some salads, things maybe more like a Subway setup type look. So we won't have at least not to start, we won't be a full-fledged restaurant. So people will call us a cafe, people will call us a bar, people will call us a restaurant, people will call us a store. But the hope is really that we are not singularly any of those things, but that sum totally we are all of those things. And so really the word we often use is just venue, because we don't want to, language kind of defines culture. And so we don't want to put certain words in people's heads if that's not the front we're trying to present. We really want it to be a sum total venue where people can come. And our aim is to elevate your board game experience. So everything about it, from being able to buy games, from being able to play hundreds of games for free, to being able to play on premier custom tables, to, of course, the food and the drink, the special events, weekly giveaways, rewards, things that some other places aren't necessarily doing. We want to be about that, so that sum totally it crafts it elevates the experience. It raises the bar.
Are you going to have cocktail servers?
So we won't have any hard liquor. It'll just be the craft beer and the wine, at least to start.
I should say less hard liquor, more. Are you going to have servers that go to the tables, or will they be going to a pickup window?
Yeah, so the hope is that this can, as we find a rhythm, that we can really go minimum staff but maximum amenities. And so a lot of what we are and what we offer hopefully will be kind of self-serve and self-selection. But of course, the food and drink, we need people. We're not planning to have people, waiting on people, having waiters and waitresses serving, coming to your table, leaving tips, things like that. I think as we find our rhythm, we will have people on the floor walking around. Maybe they'll have a Square plugged into their phone or the iPad, and just see if people want additional food and drink and things like that, so we can of course serve people without them having to get up and leave their seats. But the hope would be minimal staff and maximum amenities. So we'll see what we can do with minimal staff, and we have a good community that's ready to support. So we'll have hopefully regular volunteers on the floor teaching games, and inviting people to show them more about what's in the retail and what's at the bar and all that stuff.
So is that your initial expectation, is that whoever you hire can do a both and type of role of either being able to sell a game or sell a beer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're definitely looking at obviously we won't have very many staff. It'll be me, and then we're imagining probably not more than 5 other part-time people spread throughout the weekend, but be a small pool of people that we hope can have some knowledge and experience kind of in the world of board games, and are able to describe to people the differences in the beers, and what snack or appetizer we have that might go well with it, and all that. So,
man, I don't know a lot of guys. Actually, I do know an inordinate amount of people that have experience bartending, line cooking, and working in game stores. I know I could think of 3 at least off the top of my head right now.
So you talk about being a venue. When I think of a venue, I used to play in bands and stuff. I know what to expect when I go to, like, I don't know, a kids venue that's Chuck E. Cheese, or a venue for music, or a soccerplex or something like that. What would somebody who isn't used to this type of thing? I've been to a few on the spectrum of these of similar venues to yours, but for somebody who hasn't, what would you explain that in terms of walking through the door? What would they see? What would it feel like? Why would a mom want to go there if her husband's like, "Hey, let's check this place out," and he's already all about it, but they have a couple little kids? What would she expect, and how would you present your venue to somebody like that?
Great question. One thing that's interesting and exciting is, of course, that the world of board games, the target demographic is seemingly exceedingly broad, in that there are games for every age, every complexity, every theme. Really, board games have something for everyone. And so, of course, with a venue like Victory Pints, obviously, pints is in the name, and so a focus, of course, is the craft beer, and of course, in a city like Cincinnati, where craft beer is essentially culture here, and transcends, I think, the bar status, to where breweries are a place where families go and spend time together. And so the hope is that that wouldn't be a deterrent for people coming to see and experience that we are indeed family friendly. And of
Right.
course, being open during the day and hopefully being in a spot that we're looking at, which is 94% residential, that there will be moms and children coming in throughout the day and, want to spend time there and teach their children a kids game, or, have them be in our little kids corner and working through things and learning things. But we want it to be welcoming for everyone. There are stereotypes for the board game world or culture or board game stores, nerdy, sweaty, awkward, whatever. And so our aim is really to not deter anyone like that. I think I'm probably in that category of uber nerd or whatever you want to call it, but really to also cater to the broader community, the people who essentially are waiting to be introduced to an immersive gaming experience, and they don't even know it yet. They don't know anything about what the modern world of board games has to offer. And so, you're walking in the door, it's clean, it's spacious. You see that there's a handsome, hopefully retail selection. And then there's hundreds of games that you can choose from just to pull off and play. Some people I'm sure will come in just to pull games off the shelf and not even play them, but just because they want to touch them and they want to see them. Kind of like when we, spend hours looking through Netflix or something and don't actually watch something.
Yeah.
But we'll have sleek custom tables. Maybe not every table will be a custom premier board game table, but certainly our aim is to have as many as we can. And so people will see that this is a serious place to play. Not that it's like, hey, you're walking into Casino Royale and you got to know something to be here, but this is a place where you can be comfortable and you can be, exposed or initiated to this world that you may not know anything about. And you may find something that, oh man, there's Wingspan, the game that is bringing in all these multi-generational new players because, of its theme. And obviously it's a great game and great production, but how many other games are like that, people have no idea exist, but when they come in, they're going to find that gem.
Yeah.
If not the first time, hopefully within a few times that they visit and keep coming back. I don't know if that really answered your question, but
so what would you pull off the shelf for that family that walks through the door? It's got the dad who's more interested in Wingspan, but obviously the mom's kind of worried about keeping the attention of the kids.
Yeah.
I'm putting you on the
a
spot.
quasi not answer and then an answer. So
Sure,
actually,
yeah.
literally right before this, almost right up till 8:00, my 4-year-old son Leo and I actually just played our first full game with full rules, all the way through of Patchwork. And so I don't know if you guys are familiar with Patchwork. I guess on the box
he finished. 4-year-old finished Patchwork.
Yeah, so I think on the box it says 8+ or something. Yeah. And we've tinkered around with Carcassonne and some other game right games like Hiss and different things that are more his age level. But that was the first game that we played that we went all the way through and actually played by all the rules. And so obviously that's a 2-player game. I wouldn't recommend that for the family, but I wanted to exhale that because that was kind of a monumental moment half an hour ago.
Cool. Yeah.
I mean, there's adults I've sold Patchwork to in the past who didn't get it, so that's an accomplishment in itself. Yeah. So
he's very curious. But as far as this family walks in, what do we pull off the shelf? I'd say obviously go-to games are Kingdomino, Carcassonne, Seven Wonders, depending, of course, on the age of the children. Some of those that people might consider gateway games. If they have young kids, of course, then you're looking at, I don't know if you've heard of Hoot, but it's kind of a beefed up version of Candyland. That's not all luck. That's actually got some thought to it. But so depending, of course, on the age, there are particular gateway games that would fit.
You got to say
the family.
You got to say it. You want to say it.
I don't want to say it.
You don't want to say it? I'm waiting for it.
Are you waiting for Pandemic or Catan?
Catan.
Yeah.
Oh, Ticket to Ride. Ticket to Ride as well.
Ticket to Ride. Yes. Those Ticket to Ride, Catan, Pandemic, and Carcassonne, I would say, are the 4 gateway games.
Yeah.
I mean, Ticket to Ride New York is a great little lunchtime game for anybody.
Anybody in suspenders.
That's nice. Whatever. No, but I mean, it cuts the playtime down. It's small. You're finishing your routes really quick, and it's easy to teach. People get the idea of completing these sets. And I'm going to throw this out there because I'm going to forget to tell Ryan otherwise later on, but you'll probably care too, Riley. Attending Gamma, and I saw the new artwork for Carcassonne 20th today.
Really?
Yeah, and even the Asmodee sellers didn't know what was up with it, like if it had any expansions or anything
Oh,
in the box.
interesting. Okay.
But the box looked great, so there's that. So
Nice.
you'll have a at least a prettier version of. Did I say Carcassonne?
Mhm.
I don't know what I
Mhm.
said.
You said Carcassonne. Is that what you meant?
It was a blue and yellow box. Now I'm really confused. I'm gonna have to go back and look at my notes.
That's Carcassonne, right?
It should be Carcassonne, but I almost feel like it was no, because last year was Catan's 20th. Yeah, so it was Carcassonne. It is Carcassonne. Yep,
Okay.
definitely Carcassonne. Okay. Anyways, I'm my brain is already done with today. So, um, so you've told us a little bit about yourself. You have a 1-year-old, 4-year-old. You're playing games. How did you first get involved in modern gaming? I'm gonna sneeze.
Here it comes. There it was.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, just tell us about your original experiences with gaming, both as a kid and then how you got brought back into gaming.
Well, it'll eventually get back to what Ryan was saying with Catan.
Yes.
Perhaps the ultimate gateway game, or certainly the most recognizable to.
There's nothing wring with it, you know. There's
Yeah,
nothing
yeah,
wrong
absolutely.
with it. It has its purpose. People enjoy it.
I think one time when we were in college, when it was early on, we played 7 rounds of base Catan back to back. It was crazy. And looking back on it, I'm like, how did we even do that? But so growing up, all I knew was I didn't even know Risk. I didn't know D&D. I didn't know Magic, any of that stuff. So some of the big hitters I was, were absent in my life. So I grew up, of course, with Monopoly and Scrabble and Trivial Pursuit and Stratego and things like that. And really, it wasn't that big of a deal. Millborn, if you guys like that French card game, I don't know if you've heard that with the miles per hour and the fire truck and the gas truck. You give people crash accidents. It's a good one.
I was going to say, did you have the one that was like, there's some that the artwork on the cards definitely make you think more about the crashes than others.
Yeah. That was a game our grandpa played with us a lot growing up. So good memories of that. But so essentially didn't play anything serious or know anything about the modern world of board games until college, when some buddies of mine started playing Catan, and I was kind of like, oh, haha. Okay, cool. Dorks, whatever. But then, they asked me to play, and I think I was probably busy playing a video game or something. And I started seeing how much fun they were having, the conversations, kind of the epic moments, the laughs, all that stuff, late nights. And I'm like, I'm missing out. What the heck? So, I eventually got to table with them and started doing the sheep and the wheat and the city building and all that. And it was a lot of fun. So that was kind of my introduction. I think back then we played Power Grid. We played, trying to think what else. I mean, basically Catan, and then threw in a few others, but had a small hit in college, and then took about another 3 to 5 year break where I was in New York City and some other places doing different things. And I finally ended up at the University of Kentucky. I was working for a campus organization, and the community there was very into board games. And so that kind of reinitiated me back in 2013, about 8 years ago. And so since then, I've just been full force, loving playing any game that I can, learning about new games. And, I've been to Gen Con a few times, worked at that a few times, running some demos and done some play testing for my favorite publisher the past 5 years or so. And love games.
You can't just throw that in. Who is your favorite publisher the last 5 years?
Fantasy Flight.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Is that surprising, or like, how could you?
No, I mean, I have a love-hate relationship with Fantasy Flight personally. And I mean, this last year has been weird for a lot of people. That's why I'm surprised to hear. I know a lot of people that have had a love for FFG in the past, but when they look at where things are at now, they're not super happy. So tell us more
Yeah.
about your
Yeah.
why you love FG.
Well, there's definitely a lot of things, of course, I don't know. I'm not severely exposed to the industry or the inner workings of it all, but uh, some of the changes that have happened in leadership and efforts and emphases the past couple of years. I would certainly hoped for some different things, preferred some different things, but I think what resonates with me so deeply is because my favorite game of all time, the Lord of the Rings, the card game, is Fantasy Flight. But of course, Fantasy Flight has gotten hold of some of the major IPs: Star Wars, Game of Thrones, Marvel, Lord of the Rings, all that stuff. And I just truly believe they have done such a phenomenal job, even in their living card games, where they're all a similar framework. Of course, they're living card games, but each of them are unique and I think do a great job of just exercising and drawing out the theme of whatever it is, whether it's Legend of the Five Rings and kind of fantasy feudal Japan, or of course things that have extremely rich lore like Lord of the Rings. From the art, the flavor text, the mechanics of cards and different things like that, that's just drawn me in. And that's essentially the biggest factor for me in games as a whole, is the thematic vibe. And so anything that's gonna pull me in and transport me, make me feel like part of that world, I'm in. And so I think FFG, especially because they're pulling off of series and characters and stories that we've known for some of them decades, and so it's very nostalgic, and in some sense it's easier for them to fail because there's a hope and an expectation, but I think they've done a lot of stuff right with those. So
absolutely. I don't know. We could get into a whole nother episode.
But I have complaints.
You guys want to talk about FFG's LCGs? Are you guys talking about? Are you guys talking about competitive card games?
I mean, we're back there.
That's my bread and butter.
I know, that's what we're back to. So first off,
yes, Hunt for the Dreadnought.
Yeah, I just got this one at like 65% off because somebody was doing a clearance on that one.
Nice.
And that one was 45, and this one was. Go ahead, Ryan.
I always had a hard time with the Lord of the Rings card game because I didn't want to buy into it since it's like a co-op, but then I don't want to deck build with somebody else's decks, but then I don't want to play somebody else's deck either. We played it a few times and I enjoyed it, but then I'm I have no idea what I'm playing,
I got this one, Wizard's Quest, for 65% off. The other one I got a good deal on, but not as good as this one.
Nice.
So, yeah.
I mean, it really brought me in because I just love Lord of the Rings. And so it was what, this Lord of the Rings game? And my buddy had it. And the first time we played it, I had no idea what was going on. Because for somebody who was kind of entry level at that point, it was definitely complex. And I went to a game store in Lexington, and they had a demo copy, and I sat there for 7 hours by myself and learned to play it, and then just got hooked.
I think. Go ahead, Ryan.
I was going to say I respect some Lord of the Rings appreciation, and I like FFG's LCGs. I think they do a good job publishing them and making the rules very complex, rewarding, fun, and different from each other. I will say that in my experience, I'll probably never play one again, and it's because they have a hard time of continuing to support them. The Lord of the Rings one's probably is the longest lived one. I don't mind companies revamping games, second editions, for competitive play for the LCGs. I at this point would expect companies to do blocks similar to Magic, where we're only playing with the releases from the last 2 years or whatever, and invalidating older cards. It makes it. If you jump into the Lord of the Rings game before the second edition was launched, it was about a $600 investment to be able to have all the cards to play.
Yeah, no doubt.
So while you don't need a lot to play in LCG, if you want to play competitively, I guess that's kind of your thing. But the biggest problem for me is that they don't have I don't even know if what did I say? Game of Thrones. I don't even know if that's still going. I don't
It's
know
a
if
complete
They
game.
just
Yep.
finished it out.
Lord
So
of the
the-
Rings is also a complete game. Also, Yeah.
that's what they call them now when they're
Yep.
done.
Yep.
Well, that's a cute term. I love
It's so
that.
cute.
This is a living card
well,
game.
but
And
but
when we're done with it, it's a
Yeah.
it's a complete
Some of them
game.
just get cut, like Netrunner,
Netrunner,
and Star
yeah.
Wars, and
Yeah.
all that.
Star Wars was super innovative, and it was so I come from I played Star Wars competitively, Netrunner competitively,
Okay.
Lord of the or Legend of the Five Rings competitively before it was an LCG, and then very, very slightly after it was an LCG. But the Star Wars LCG was it was so cool, but the deck building mechanic just led to anyway, we're done. I'm done. That's my FF.
I could
FFG.
talk about living card games forever. So
Yeah, I like what they put out, and I think it's awesome that you. I've volunteered for companies for since Gen Con first came to Indy, on and off. So I always like people that volunteer for companies. It doesn't matter. There's companies that I volunteer for. I like the staff, and the games are. We have not spoken to them on this podcast. It is not Weird Giraffe Games, but there's other companies where the people are cool, and I'm like, these games are all right.
Oh, goodness sakes. So getting back on track. I totally forgot you had put the Lord of the Rings game in your response to us, which is cool. But it's one of my favorite games right now. I played a lot of it over this last year, but it's easier to get into now because of the reasons that Ryan said. Like, people had collected it for years, and now they've sold it off, and so I was able to pick it up. So if you've been playing this whole time, kudos to you. Did you? I think you said you played. Marvel Champions too. Trying to look at my notes here. I think, and I've played a lot of Marvel Champions. In fact, I got to play it before it came out. But I think that the great part of that game is they took everything that they had learned from Arkham and Lord of the Rings and Game of
They've
Thrones.
done that with all of them.
Everyone's
a little bit better.
It finally feels like they really learned how to cut the fat and focus on what they really want to do.
Yeah, you can see the progression from Lord of the Rings to Arkham to Marvel Champions with all the co-op living card games, for sure. You can see how it is streamlined.
Yeah. So are you going to have any tournaments for it? Because they've been announcing some of they haven't announced dates yet because everything's in flux, but
for Marvel Champions.
For Champions and Crisis Protocol, they've been starting to announce some of their I don't know what they're calling it now, but nice Kingpin. There he is.
Some protocol right here. I haven't actually played yet, but I have some figures I've painted over the past 9 months that I'm waiting to play.
Well, so did you? You probably didn't see this, but Crisis Protocol passed up everything except for Warhammer, and it's the number 3 miniature game now. I can't remember. Whatever.
Really?
It passed up Legion and the other Warhammer one. But so it's number 3 right now. But I think it's primarily because everybody was like, I need to paint cool things during lockdown. So
yeah, definitely.
Those models do look good.
They're pretty sweet. So do you want to talk more about some of your other favorite games that are current right now, since we're kind of there?
Sure. Yeah. Another Lord of the Rings game, War of the Ring, the second edition, definitely with the expansions, Lords of Middle Earth and Warriors of Middle Earth. And I think there's rumor or maybe definite confirmation that there's a Kings of Middle Earth or something coming out to complete it and round it out. But
I pre-ordered it last February and it was supposed to be out in August. So
okay.
Yeah,
there you
go ahead.
That game is so epic. It's hard to even describe, to somebody that doesn't know. But it's 2 full-size boards that take up the majority of your table. There's dozens, if not, I don't know, 100, couple hundred figures, maybe not quite that many. Every card is got an action or a title or a text that's thematic if you know the lore and you know the story. It's it's as epic gets. So that one's been my favorite for a number of years. And then I throw in Power Grid and Stockpile. I don't know if you guys have played that, but
I've played it once, huh?
Navu Games
Yeah.
publisher, but they have some
What do
great
you like about
expansions for that.
Stockpile?
It is, I guess I haven't played too many kind of money or stock related games, but the fact that there is, depending on your player count, let's say you're playing with 4 people, there's 6 stock companies. And so everybody gets cards and everybody knows what one company is going to do if it's going to go up or down in stock. Mm-hmm. And they secretly know that. And then everybody collectively knows what one of the companies is going to do. That's face up for everybody to see. And then nobody knows what one of the companies is going to do because that one's face down. And so you're kind of playing each other throughout the round. You're placing and bidding on stocks. You're maybe selling stocks to try and, learn information or lead people to, sell something that isn't beneficial for them. And so I just love I don't know what you'd call it, hidden information, but, and it's, interestingly enough, I'm not sure how this legally works, but all the characters are real. All the characters you can be that have a special ability are real people, like Donald Trump and Martha Stewart and Kramer, whatever that guy's name is.
I guess
Money.
Bill Gates, Warren Buffett. Yeah. So
I guess I did not remember that part. That's the problem with playing too many games sometimes.
And Viticulture.
Oh, Viticulture, cool. Yep. Well, I was actually, from your list, I was going to guess either FFG or Stonemeyer might be who you had repped at Gen Con. Yeah. So you also had Great Western Trail on your, and Feast for Odin. You want to say anything about those two?
Feast for Odin is the most components I've ever seen in a game, most tokens I've ever seen in a game. I'm sure maybe there's more out there, but man, when I opened that box and punched like 15 boards of tokens of every shape and size, I was like, this better be epic. Because this took me, as long to prepare to play as it did to play. But and I think obviously Uwe Rosenberg's games,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of similarities in a lot of them, but that one's big. That one's epic for sure. And it's got, like combines Patchwork and Agricola and a couple other games and like makes them all one thing. And I love it. So
have you seen the new artwork for Great Western Trail, the new edition coming out?
I think so. I'm trying to
I'm actually kind of glad that I don't have a copy yet, because they're gonna have like the South American cowboy version, and I'm a sucker for good artwork. And if you haven't seen it, you should look it up.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now. I did see it. Was it? It's kind of older looking, or no? They're like on a stagecoach or something.
For the American one, yeah. But then the one in South America is a little bit different, and I think they might have sheep.
So I see. Southwestern Trail.
Yeah, I think. What are you saying about that? Are you like, hey, did you see that? Or you're like,
no, I'm just saying, have you seen it? I mean, because I like the new artwork better. The old artwork had some of the worst faces ever. And then I'm excited for the South American one. I'll probably get the South American one instead of the regular one. But
also on this podcast, we always announce any loaded questions.
Oh, we do?
I mean, I always do. I'm like, so by the way, painfully obvious loaded question. Or at least you don't. I do. Well, I'm just saying.
Are you going to ask one? Yeah, go for it.
No. I don't have one currently. I just was saying that's usually what we do. I mean, I could probably make one up, but so Riley, for event space, for running events and stuff, in my experience, anybody who knows me from years ago, alcohol and games do mix. But so, for example, if you want to run Friday Night Magic, I'm pretty certain through WotC's compliance measures, you are not allowed to have alcohol in the same area to run any what's DNC? What's no, that's some other group. What's
WPN.
WPN? Is that what it's called now?
Are you talking about Wizards Play Network?
Is that what it's called? What was your card number? Anyway, yeah, that stuff. Now you can, I don't know how big your space is, but is there an intention to get companies event kits and stuff and to run events, or is this kind of a part of the feel it out and see where we get with the venue?
It's definitely a little bit of feel it out, and it also depends kind of significantly on whether or not, or if and when we can secure the second floor of the space that we're looking at, which would essentially double our seating capacity, in which case, of course, having kind of sectioned off events would be much easier. But
nerds go upstairs.
I think my main experience and my main passion is in tabletop board games. And so, and of course, throw in living card games in there, but competitive card games or collectible card games and miniatures and role-playing games, those are all the things that I have less experience in. We have a few people in our, not on staff yet, but either invested or just a community member ready to support that do have, some DMing experience or even publishing experience and, miniatures experience and different things like that. So we're hoping they can pick that up and help build that for us. But I don't think that right off the bat we'll have anything official to launch. We'll need to see kind of what the crowd's like and how much space we end up having, and what we have the capacity for.
That makes sense. Yeah.
In your email response to us, you said that you think we're in the middle of a golden age of board games. Where would you like to see board games and tabletop gaming go, and how would you like to see Victory Pints be a part of that in the next few years?
Nice. That phrase, the golden era of modern board games, I saw that in an article somewhere, and there was a market research stat that was talking about how the global board games market from 2017 to 2023 is almost going to double, and we're right in the midst of that. And so I think kind of back to maybe 2008, is that like when modern board games really took off? I don't know. I'm sure people debate that. I don't know, but we've been in it for some years and it's explosive, and we might be right in the middle of the most explosive time. And so the next 3 years could just be incredible for bringing every type of new person into the hobby that wouldn't have ever thought, this could be their life, or they'd, end up, instead of going to a concert or instead of, sitting down and watching, another thing on Netflix, like I'm probably going to do at some point tonight. That man, they sat down at a table with their family or their friends and they played either a silly game or an epic game or something that brought them together, and they laughed, they grit their teeth at each other, they high-fived, whatever, and they wouldn't have seen this experience coming. I think the next 3 years are going to be bringing so many more people into that, because so many of the people that or there's plenty of people I know that, of course, I don't game with. And obviously that's one of the things I'm most passionate about. And so I just imagine these next 3 years, how many of those people I'm going to get the opportunity to sit at a table with. And, as they're introduced to this world of board games, I guess it's like if you have your favorite movie, like, okay, mine's Lord of the Rings. If somebody hasn't seen it and you're like, oh, you got to see this or watch it. Okay. You want to watch it together, and you get to sit with them through their first experience of that. Maybe they hate it. I don't know, but let's just pretend that they don't. It's like that. You're getting to see somebody, share something that's been special to you for such a long time. And it's not just because, oh, this is a cool movie or these characters are cool. It's because the experience is so rich. It's because it's about the people and the relationships. And so I think for me, that's one of the most exciting things, is seeing these next couple of years, how many new people are going to be coming into the hobby that, wouldn't have ever counted themselves in or known it was going to happen upon them. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you a question now that we can edit out afterwards if we need to. So Ryan was right. Sometimes we do ask loaded questions. So
my questions are like funny loaded. Hey Riley, when you put people's names on chairs, like mine's going to be extra big, right?
So my question is that when I hear all that, I'm like, that's great, that's wonderful, but a lot we've been talking about this season is about making the tent bigger, inviting everybody to the table for board gaming, except I mean there's no other way to say it, except we honestly don't want bigots at the table. So there's that. And first of all, that's Ryan and me's stance. But alongside that, there's also been a lot of talk recently about the democratization of board games. How do you balance that? And here's where the more loaded question for somebody who's trying to do a retail thing and trying to pay the bills for their family and everything else as they take on a new business venture. How do you balance this experience that you're talking about and the democratization of board games with like the fact that most board games are expensive, and that experience is something that is out of reach for a lot of people unless you have a space that is specifically devoted to and inviting to people who might not be able to otherwise afford it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you're talking a little bit about the price, the entry price, but then the democratization. Tell me more about democratization.
Yeah, just in general, that like like one way that Shut Up and Sit Down, they're pretty big in the board gaming world. They said, we're always going to mention how much a game costs in our review of games. And then there was a lot of back and forth between them and other reviewers and some people about that. Like what there's a lot of things we could talk about here. So I'm more interested in your thoughts rather than me going on and on about what I've read recently. So first off, democratization. I think like art, board games should be for everybody. Everybody should be able to enjoy them. How do we balance that with a place where you're trying to make money? How are you going to share those experiences in a way that really does invite people in? I mean, are you? There's the loaded question.
Are you going to do that?
I mean, and if you're not, I mean, so how does that match up with that vision that you're sharing with us? I'm not trying to make this a poor experience. And like I said, we can edit this out if you need to, if you're uncomfortable with it. But I think it's worth exploring.
You can decide if like this was a terrible few minutes here.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Of course, as we get into it, I'm sure we'll see what areas we were, overly hopeful in or ambitious in or naive in. And like, wow, I can't believe we ever thought that was going to be possible. Oh, I can't believe we ever thought we were going to be able to do all these things. Clearly that's not profitable, or, clearly this isn't able to build the community that we're trying to do. I think that, again, going back to, because we're not strictly retail and we're not strictly food and beverage, that because we're not solely dependent on one, it can really benefit both, in the sense that the board game hobby, which could be a money pit or super expensive or addicting or whatever, is something we want to have a value for. We don't want to be playing off of the very real addiction that there can be of collecting and storing up games on your shelf that you never play, and just spending money to spend money on games, which I've been guilty of plenty of times. But there's only so much we can do about that. But I think in one sense, we want to really emphasize the experience and the relationships. And so when it comes to the selling and the price points and all that stuff, we want that to be exciting and competitive for somebody that knows their stuff, as well as somebody who doesn't know their stuff. Because how many people are going to walk in, look at a game and say, oh, let me just look at that on Amazon real quick. Amazon's going to beat us sometimes, but our hope is that we'll be right there with them and sometimes even beat them. And just some of the what you call them, little tests that we've run on some of their pricing for games and when they change them and all that stuff. But I'm not even sure if I'm answering your question at this point, but ask me some other questions to draw out what you're asking.
Yeah, I didn't really prepare you for this one.
How big is my name on the chair?
My
can I get it in
that
gold
the other day because
leaf?
he thought of the name Victory Pints, and we just got our like test pint glasses in. He's like, so I get a really big one, right, with my name on it that you pull out whenever I'm in. Like, yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it still has to be a pint, though, right? Like, it can't be like 2 pint size.
It's just a really big glass, but we only pour a pint in, so it looks pathetic.
Yeah, he's a glass half full guy, so he's still happy about it.
Sorry, go ahead. Help me
you're
draw out this question. I want to understand more what you're.
Asking. So if I come in and I don't buy anything except for maybe a Coke or a coffee occasionally, but most of the time I'm just coming in and hanging out with my friends and playing your games for free. Is Victory Pints a place for me to come in?
Absolutely, without question. And of course, that at some point could run into, could bump up against, hey, we need these seats for paying customers and you've just been hanging out forever, or that's all you ever do in here. Are you going to spend any money? I mean, obviously, that's a definite reality, but our hope is that this truly would be a platform community and that what we have and what we offer would be so appealing that people will, not necessarily spend their paycheck, but spend an appropriate amount of money to invest in it, to support it, to reap the benefits of it because it's favorable, because it's fun, and because it's a place they want to see grow and spread to other cities. That's the hope. And so if we run into hey, there's lots of people that are coming in and spending time here and not spending money, then I think we'll try to find soft and relational ways to.
In a game store, those are called your regulars, by the way.
Instigate
right,
some of that,
right. But I mean, that's the thing that I think even a regular retail space has to deal with is that there are people who sometimes just want to use your space and purchase the items elsewhere. So,
Starbucks didn't come up with the "you're welcome here" at all the time, and you don't have to buy anything to use the bathroom, which I do appreciate as someone who works in places that don't have bathrooms. But they didn't do that when they opened their first store. They did it when there was a Starbucks on every corner.
Yeah,
it wasn't a gathering place like that until that happened. But yeah, the people that are going to, I don't know, maybe not in your experience. In my experience, some of the worst customers were my friends. or me, honestly, depending on the store,
No. I'm not asking this question because I'm worried about some esoteric person. I'm asking because I'm only going to come in and borrow your games. No, no. I think you answered really well. It's hard to balance a business with these high ideals we have for the board gaming community. I mean, I wish you the best of luck, and I hope it goes well. I think, and here's the softball pitch that I'm going to throw out there is I think for those of us who can afford to support local businesses, I'm going to say it again. It's almost always better to just support the local business who's providing services like yours.
Yeah,
and
100%.
Yeah.
So, I will when I have some friends that live out in Mason. There's a couple stores out in Mason. It's weird. I work in Mason. I don't even know if I know actually where Mason is. It's like out past Fields Erdel near Kings Island, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes it's like I'm in Mason, but
yeah, there are 3 game themed stores within like a quarter or a mile of each other.
Yeah, and I know some guys that have been going up there. Is Nostalgia Inc. in Mason? Is that one of them? Yeah.
Yep.
So I got a buddy that's like his regular shop. Every local game store, every LGS is my FLGS. They're all my favorite local game stores. But yeah, I definitely would come in and get some just put some dairy free stuff on the menu. Like,
okay,
they always want everything's got to have cheese on it. and I can't eat cheese. I mean, I can eat cheese,
but I shouldn't eat cheese.
but you don't want me in your establishment. But just keep that in mind. It doesn't have to be vegan or vegetarian. I mean, that's always good to have those options. But a lot of times, like, because the Rook had that, and it felt like, every restaurant you go to, my wife's like, where you want to go eat? I'm like, I want to go eat at these places because everything's got cheese. She's like, well, you always want to eat Asian food. And I'm like, well, they don't eat cheese.
They don't have the cheese problem. So, what else do you? Because we're coming up on our hour here. What else do you want to let people know? What's going to make your venue special? Yeah, let's go there.
Just real quick to touch on what you guys were talking about, the regulars or people who may not spend as much money but spend large quantities of time. Again, going into it, as an entrepreneur, having all these ideals, how does that mesh with actual successful business and profitability and all that? My hope is that when we run into that, our primary efforts will be towards relationship, and that relationally we can win them to want to support and want to spend. And if they don't, okay. And, hopefully that won't become an overwhelming profitability issue, but that would be our primary aim, is to relationally win them so that they want to, not to say, hey, how do we fix this? Or how do we maybe get them out of here so we can make space for the person who's going to spend money? But hey, how do we help this person jump from I spend time here and I benefit a lot to, hey, I want to make sure this place sticks around, and I want to make sure this place is, going to be here for everyone. So
in restaurants, they're called campers. And in game stores, though, you can, one of the things that you could do, just advice for any game store, is try to direct those people. They can actually be assets sometime. They can teach people how to play games. You got that guy that's up there thirsting to play whatever game, all the time, to tell people that come in that are interested, like, hey man, if you ever want to pick up game, this guy's up here like on Tuesdays and Thursdays, like every week. And then now you have those people returning. So that's just spitballing ideas, because I don't know, I feel bad. I lived in a game store, not literally,
but you lived in a game store.
I was raised by a game store, almost literally, for a couple of years. So
very nice.
So what do you want to end with? We appreciate you being with us here tonight, and we'll leave it up to you how you want to end the conversation here.
Thank you, guys. I mean, I love what you guys do, and I'm thankful that I don't even know how you saw Victory Pints or reached out. Did you just see it online?
Gary Chavez.
Gary Chavez, yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just the conversations about the industry, about games, about the people involved in the hobby. I love it. So I love what you guys are doing, and I hope that you guys keep doing it for a long time, and that it's, like you said, wildly successful and makes lots of money. But if there's, I mean, part of me, I guess we could talk about all kinds of things, but part of me just wants to say thanks for, of course, you guys, but then all the people who have been in our corner this past year, helping us along the way, whether business professionals and mentors, whether people helping us with graphics and marketing, people helping us with kind of industry connections and insight. It's not, none of this is possible without I guess what would be an army of people that have come around us to, that are hoping and looking towards this coming to fruition and succeeding and thriving. This is my first gig doing something, I don't know if Mullenspiel really counts because it didn't actually happen. And there wasn't a lot of risk involved. So, but this, we're all in and everything's on the line. And, I transitioned out of my full-time job back in October, and, we withdrew all our retirement, and we've been going all in to try to make this happen. So if it doesn't happen, we'll be disappointed, but we're confident that a way is going to be made, and it couldn't have been without all the people that have just been a part of the journey this far, and we're not even to opening the doors yet. So I'm so excited for everybody else that's going to be involved, as we take each next step, and we make some big mistakes, I'm sure, at different points, but hopefully recover from those and learn and make the right adjustments. So just excited for what this can be, and thankful for what you guys do and everybody that's come around us. So
Kickstarter March 30th, right?
Yeah.
Kickstarter and GoFundMe March 30th. Yes, we're trying to come out of the gate strong. So
there you go. You got to plug that. Say it. Shout it from the mountaintops.
Yep. Victory Pints.
Yep. Victory Pints. Kickstarter and GoFundMe March 30th.
VPCincy.com.
Awesome.
There you go.
Thanks, Riley. And hopefully we'll have another conversation after you've successfully funded and opened, maybe in season 3.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Thanks.